We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully your day is going well. It is Sunday, recording this later Saturday night. For those listening to the podcast, this is a Substack Live. It's been a little while since I've done a Substack Live, and I wanted to get back here. We've got a lot of great people who are listening, and no doubt tonight they're particularly interested because of the events of today or the events of tonight. And we know the big news, of course, is Donald Trump told us 2 weeks and he'd decide whether or not he'd bomb Iran. Well, he just went ahead and did it tonight. He sent B-2 bombers into Iran, and they dropped bunker buster bombs at 3 nuclear locations. Didn't get any okay from Congress. Just went and did it. The important thing you have to understand is that Bibi Netanyahu has been trying to get a president of the United States to do this literally for decades. It wasn't till Donald Trump, Mr. Peaceful, Mr. No New Wars. But here we are in a new war. Now, some Trump-la-fucks will come out and they will say, well, we haven't declared war. We're not at war yet. Listen, motherfuckers, if you bomb another country, you're at war. And to think that they're just going to stand there and take it is absolutely silly. Now, there's something else you should know. In addition to those bunker buster bombs, there's also a report that U.S. Navy submarines sent in 30 Tomahawk missiles as well. We don't know the extent of the damage with the bunker busters or the Tomahawk missiles. And that's the interesting thing about Donald Trump. After this all happens, he, of course, goes on television and talks about this great success, this total annihilation of all the nuclear weapons or nuclear materials that they blew up. But there's no way to verify that. In order to do something like that, you have to have boots on the ground, at least Israel's boots on the ground, to check it out before you can say it was an absolute win. We talked about the bunker busters before, and we understood them to be able to go down as far as 200 feet. But we also heard that some of these manufacturing plants were down as far as 300 feet. So we don't really know if it was successful. But you know as well as I do, Donald Trump doesn't care much about facts or truth or anything like that. So he says it was successful, and apparently we have to take his fucking word for it. Now, Donald Trump also told Iran, now, if there's any retaliation, you're in for trouble. Retaliation? This is fucking Iran. Of course there's going to be retaliation. By the way, all the people joining me here on Substack, thank you very much. Please feel free to ask questions, make comments. That'll make this much easier to do if you're interacting as well. What you have to say and what you think is just as important as what I have to say. So please delve in. Mark J. Mell says they moved the components according to Malcolm Nance. He said it was the size of a basketball and easily moved. I heard that too, Mark. Not surprisingly, Iran has come out and said, yeah, we knew this was coming because Donald Trump and Bibi Netanyahu have been talking about this a few days. They say they moved all the nuclear stuff. Now, whether that's true or not, we don't necessarily know, but that's about the speed for Donald Trump. Go in and say he had a great success and they moved all the shit on him. See, that's the thing we have to verify. What actually happened? Was it truly a success? According to Donald Trump, it was, but, fuck, who knows? Donald Trump fucks everything up every goddamn time. OLSH Survivor says, look on Rubio's face during the conference makes me think he's not doing too well. I think a lot of them aren't doing too well, to be perfectly honest with you. What they're seeing Donald Trump do is just reactionary. It's emotional, as he does. And the fact of the matter is he goes and bombs this country, sends the missiles into this country as well, totally unprovoked and for no reason. You think there was no reason to be in Vietnam? There's no reason to be in Iran. And the fact of the matter is 70 to 80% of this country agree with that. We should not be getting into new wars. And Donald promised no new wars, but here we the fuck are. This is big news right now, but we could be in for some problems going forward. We'll talk about that in a moment. Angry Mongoose says, "Do you think Iran knew about this before our own Congress?" Probably. I mean, they knew about it when the bombs hit. I think they probably, after talking to Donald Trump and how irrational he is, and knowing what they know about Benjamin Netanyahu, they probably knew before Congress. Um, the thing about it is I've always said there's got to come a point where the Republicans say, fuck, enough is enough. We got to get rid of this guy before he destroys the world. And I honestly thought that that would come well before now. But if there was ever a time to consider kicking him to the curb, today would be the day. What he did by sending these bombs in is unconstitutional, is illegal. If you're going to start a war, you need to go through Congress first. And of course, he doesn't do that. He's not big on, he's one of these guys that likes to ask for forgiveness as opposed to permission. And usually he's breaking the law when he does that. So anyway, AOC apparently has come out and said she'd like to introduce articles of impeachments. And while that sounds cool and it's nice and everything, doesn't mean anything. Nothing's going to happen. Even if she does introduce articles of impeachment, it goes to Mike Johnson and he won't bring them to the floor. Not yet, anyway. Not until he gets all the Republicans pushing him to do that. Who knows if that's going to happen? Another Representative Massey spoke out. He's a Republican. He said this is illegal and unconstitutional. There are going to be plenty of Republicans that aren't happy about this. And I think one of the things that they won't be happy about is the fact that this seems like a reckless act. This just seems like they didn't give it much consideration or thought. He just went ahead and did it. Donna says, I'm concerned about Iran's actions in the Strait of Hormuz and the impact of exports. I heard Mr. Global that 21% of our oil goes through the strait. Yeah, I was watching Mr. Global too, and when it comes to oil and gas, he is certainly the expert, and he made some great points. Iran made the statement that they're going to take away the trillions of dollars that Donald Trump wanted to get. Question is, what did he mean by that? Well, Mr. Global suggests, as well as attacking all the military installments in and around the Middle East, it's not just in America. We've got military outlets all around the Middle East. Expect some attacks on them. But more than that, what Mr. Global is suggesting, that they'll do exactly what happened in the Gulf War. They'll go into Iraq and burn the oil wells. Remember how that was back then? These fucking things were burning and burning and burning, and oil was wasted. This is likely to raise the price of oil considerably. So we'll see what happens. But Donald Trump seems to think there won't be any retaliation because they're too afraid of him. Please, motherfucker. These are religious zealots. They're going to strike back, and that's the frightening thing. We don't know how, we don't know where, and we don't know how many times. Why is Adam on Substack? Yeah, it's the right move. Adam, I don't know Adam. Not sure who you're talking about. Are you talking about Aaron? Adam Kinzinger. Oh, I got you. Adam is on Substack. Yeah, he says it's the right move. Well, keep in mind, we like Adam Kinzinger because he stood up against Donald Trump. But also remember, he is a Republican. It's like Liz Cheney. We love the fact that they stood up to Donald Trump, but they don't have the same beliefs as most Democrats. They aren't in sync with us. So take that for what it's worth. Kinzinger supports this. I am disappointed. Yeah, I am too. For a guy that was in the military, for us to enter a war totally unprovoked, being played by Benjamin Netanyahu after president resisted this, Donald Trump gets sucked in. And there is no apparent reason for it. His own national intelligence said that there isn't any kind of nuclear weaponry or nuclear manufacturing going on, or not enough to make it worthwhile. His intelligence agency said that. Donald Trump said they are wrong, that they were lying. His own national intelligence. He's got better information. Wonder where that information came from. Do you think Iran called him up and said, "Yeah, we got all kinds of nuclear stuff"? No, it came from Benjamin Netanyahu, and he's got a dog in this fight. Do you think Benjamin Netanyahu could have lied? Guaranteed. He is basically the miniature Donald Trump in Israel. The pro-Palestine far left, where are they? Well, that's a good point. Where are they? They all got on Joe Biden, Mr. Genocide, doing all those sorts of things, but here we are. We got people in Gaza being killed unmercifully. We've got this war in Iran now. We've got all these Trump-fucks that said, "Oh, Donald Trump's peaceful. No more new wars." Well, we got a new war, thanks to your Lord and Savior. And guess what? We want to see a bunch of you motherfucking gravy seals go down to the military office and sign up. You want to fight? Here's your opportunity. We'll send you to Iran. And if you ever want to know what that's like, talk to people who fought in Iraq unnecessarily because of WMDs. Remember that? There were no WMDs in Iraq, even though they told us there was. You know where America got the idea that there were WMDs in Iraq? You know where they got that idea? Bibi Netanyahu. So isn't that coincidental? Spacer 7567, I think, is Cheney and Kinzinger were actually serious about taking on Trump. They would have done something during the Biden time was president. They're all talk. Yeah, you got to understand, politicians aren't people that really do anything. They're constantly posturing. They're posing so that they give you the impression that they're one thing or the other. Donald Trump is desperate to look tough. That's why he does something like this. Kinzinger and Liz Cheney speak out against Donald Trump, first of all, because it's the right thing to do. In as far as they should have done something, I don't know that there's much they can do when the vast majority of the Republican Party are in Donald Trump's pocket. But they just kind of disappeared and they're being quiet, show up on social media now and again. Trevor says, yeah, MAGA, sign the fuck up, you pussies. Way to go, Trevor. ITS never happening. Maggots need to boot up. I agree with you. The GOP should go too. MTG and Boebert can go to. I will tell you this, though. You want to hear something interesting? MTG is going against Donald Trump regarding this war. She's against this action. She's trying to change her personality a little bit. I think she's realizing that Donald Trump is spiraling out of control and will ultimately crash in a big piling heap of steaming shit, and people are going to start trying to save themselves. Mark J. Mel, are we safe at home? Homeland Security is chasing people through cornfields. We have to be careful at home. You're absolutely right. We have to be careful. I mean, that's something else we've got to consider. Clearly, we have no national security anymore. Pete Hegseth and Signal apps and all this stuff. There is no protection in terms of national security. And we've got clowns running our Defense Department and a clown running our Homeland Security. Are we safe? I can't honestly say we are, if those are the people running the show. ITS never happening. Let them bomb Trump properties and golf courses instead of our troops. Well, I'll tell you this. We kept hearing the stories that Iran was looking to do away with Donald Trump. I don't think his relationship has gotten any better. And you're absolutely right. The security around Donald Trump and all the other people in the Trump organization better get a little tightened up, because there are going to be maybe sleeper cells in this country. Who knows what? What Donald Trump did was to show he's a tough guy. He had no business doing it. He didn't have Congress backing him on it. What he did was illegal. Donald Trump doesn't think beyond the end of his nose. He doesn't worry about ramifications because he's too stupid to know that. But trust me, there's going to be ramifications, and it's going to be ugly, and it's going to be the fault of Donald Trump. Spacer7567 says, I saw a video with Aaron Parnas interviewing the Democratic candidate for senator in South Carolina. I wonder how this will affect Lindsey Graham's chances in 2026 for his position supporting the attack on Iran. Well, it's hard to tell. When you go into those states like South Carolina, North Carolina, Kentucky, they are voting for the same clowns over and over again, strictly because of their names. But Lindsey's had his problems. He's had some run-ins with the Trump administration, and he was all about getting behind this attack. So I think what will play the most important role is to see what happens after the fact. It's all cool to go and bomb them and say we won when we don't even really know that. It's what comes back on us after that. Oil prices, attacks on military installments, terrorist attacks in this country. These are all possible things. That's where the rubber will hit the road, and that's where these guys will take their beating. But you're going to see a lot of Republicans try to take a stance here. They don't really have much choice because taking us into a war isn't a popular thing. And there's likely to be some Republicans that say, oh, no, I'm not for this. I'm not for this. It's easy because they can't stop it. It's already happened. But you will be seeing Republicans back away from this. And as I said, AOC wants to introduce articles of impeachment. That's well and good. But unless the Republicans do it, it doesn't mean anything. It'll never get to the floor because pansy-ass Mike Johnson won't bring it on the floor. It'll never be voted on. I think if it was given a chance to vote, he might get impeached. And this may be the thing that gets the Republicans over the edge and say, fuck this. We can't keep doing this, especially if something bad comes out of this. They told the Republicans, but not the Democrats. Oh. What he's suggesting is that the Trump administration told all the Republicans about the tax, but not the Democrats. I don't know if that's true, but here's what we do know. That's distinctly possible. That's how Donald Trump and the Trump administration and Republicans in general do business, so that's likely to be the case. But even if they did tell the Republicans that they were going to do it, there was no vote. There had to be a vote on this in order for it to be legal. And Donald Trump did not do that. Donald Trump's not good with rules. He just does whatever the fuck he wants. And make no mistake, the reason he does what he wants is because the Republican Party allows him to do it. I know some people will say, what about the Democrats? Why don't they stop them? What are they supposed to do? I mean, they could be louder. They could be more aggressive. But logistically, there's really nothing they can do. They don't hold the majority in the House or the Senate. The Republicans are the ones that have to act. And if they don't, there's not much you can do. And until the Republicans have decided that they've had enough, this shit is still going to happen. And every time he does this stuff, it puts us in danger. It puts us in absolute danger. Somebody else said they saw the suggestion that Trump told the Republicans and not the Democrats. That's the one thing you have to be careful of when you're out here on the social media. There's a lot of people talking, and not all of it's true. Just because somebody said it, even somebody you trust, be careful, verify it if you can. See, what happens is on days like this, there are some creators that will hear news and they'll get all excited and they want to be the first one to put it out. So they don't check it out and they just say it. I can't tell you how many creators I've seen make horrible mistakes because they didn't take the time to check it out. Everything you hear on social media, I would check it out. Like if I say something, it's easy to go to Google and say, did this happen? And then you'll get a news story that tells you whether or not it happened. So please always check things out because this is how we start stirring people up and getting people scared without anybody knowing what actually is the truth. I'll be honest with you, when I first heard Donald Trump made the announcement in a Truth Social post that he bombed Iran and the 3 nuclear sites, I said, did he really? Because, Donald Trump has a tendency to lie. He has a tendency to talk out his ass. He has a tendency to blow his horn. He tends to speak before he should speak. So I thought at that time, at least I had my fingers crossed, and I said, well, maybe he hasn't done it yet. I'll wait for Iran to say what's going on or if there's any verification that the bombing happened. But it did. Now, earlier today, I did a TikTok and a Substack where we heard that B-2 bombers were moving from Missouri to Guantanamo Bay. What we didn't know at that time is they weren't stopping at Guantanamo Bay. They were headed out toward Iran. And it was kind of a sneak attack or whatever you want to talk about. Some people are suggesting that Donald Trump either lied to the public, which is distinctly possible, or he was complicit in this little ruse where they were going to sneak attack him. I don't trust Donald Trump being smart enough to be involved in any kind of plan. He just got a wild hair. He wanted to do it. Here we go. ITS never happening. He just spends money because it's not his. We, the taxpayers, are now paying for our war and not our veterans. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Those bunker busting bombs, 30,000 pounds. What are they, like 400,000 or a million? I don't know. It's a lot of money per bomb. And those fuckers are expensive. And as I said, Donald Trump said it was a complete success, but he has no way of knowing that. He's not on the ground. He has nobody on the ground to check it and verify it. So we don't know what happened. And then we hear the news report that Iran comes out and says, well, we moved all the nuclear stuff, so you didn't hit it. It's at a secure spot. Now, they could be lying because they tend to lie now and again, too. But if they're telling the truth, then Donald Trump spent a lot of money, created a lot of bad will for nothing. And basically, he did it for nothing anyway, because we weren't provoked in this war. This wasn't our war. I think people hate the idea that we get involved in wars in general, but when we get involved in wars that we have no business in, like this one, that's troubling. We got to remember, how did this war start? You remember how this war started? I mean, there's always been scuffles and kerfuffles and stuff like that with the Middle East. It's been like that since I've been born and well before I was born. But remember, Israel was the first to bomb Iran. That's what set this off. And here's what you need to know about Benjamin Netanyahu. Benjamin Netanyahu needs a war. He's a convicted war criminal. When the wars end, he could be kicked out of his position and sent to jail. This is why he wants perpetual war. I keep hearing that people are worried that Trump will send ICE, FBI, etc. to Democratic cities during the 2026 election and 2028 elections to stop or scare Democrats from voting. What do you make of this? I don't think he's smart enough to accomplish it. Well, whether he's smart enough to accomplish it or not, I don't know. Yeah, you're right. I don't think he's that smart. Do I think that's going to happen? Here's what I think. I think a lot of stuff gets out there in the ether, and I hear it from people all the time, mostly Democrats. And they'll talk about all these horrific things that could happen. Martial law, or they're going to send ICE. Let me tell you something. What happens to ICE every time they go into a city? Almost every time what happens, the crowds and the protests are so big, they get chased into a fucking building, they lock the door behind them, and then they call the police for help. The idea that they're going to stop people from voting or intimidate people, I don't think that's going to happen. I'll be honest with you. OLSH survivor says Bibi said the same stuff he's always said for like 30 years. Yeah, you're absolutely right. This is exactly the kind of thing that he's said for 30 years. And most administrations said, yeah, we're not going to get sucked in this way. We're not going to do that for you. Why are we fighting your fight? And Bibi's been trying it for years. And then he gets Donald Trump, and it looked like they were had some issues in their relationship. And then here we go. What you have to understand about Donald Trump, he is easily manipulated. And there's another part of this too. After that G7 thing where he essentially got kicked out, he's been called a chicken. He's been embarrassed by his parade. He has to strike back. He has to act like he's tough. And that's pretty much what he did in this situation. This was more about how does Donald Trump look than how does international diplomacy work. Angry Mongoose, we have had elections during wartime. We aren't Ukraine. It's not in our Constitution to hold elections during wartime. You're absolutely right. And Angry Mongoose is making my point here. There are a lot of Democrats out here that keep coming to me and say, I'm scared of this, I'm scared of that. This is no time to be fucking scared. These are bullies. They want you scared. So if you want to play into their strategy, that's your business. But if you're going to be scared and you're going to tell me that the sky is going to fall, here's what I would tell you to do. Go on the sidelines, curl up in a ball, and when we're fucking done fucking these people up, we'll come get you. Okay? Because you're not of any value to us if you're have this weak attitude when we're literally going into a war. Don't listen to the bullshit. People say, well, I don't know. There's no hope because of this. Listen, if there is no hope, what's the point? Why am I here doing this? Why are you here talking to me? Of course there's hope. This country has gone through a lot of difficult times. I'm old enough to remember the 60s. I was young, but that was some tumultuous shit. But somehow we got through it. We got through it and we fixed a lot of things and things ended up better. And I suspect that's what we're going to see this time around in this particular instance. Now, make no mistake, it's going to end at some point. It's going to end. It has to. Donald Trump is already spiraling out of control. He may have done irreparable damage to the Republican Party with this war. This is not going to be popular. And if there are retaliations and some tragedies that come out of this, the only person that's going to be blamed is Donald Trump and the Republican Party. What do you make of the NYC mayoral election? Right now, it's between Andrew Cuomo and Zoran Mondani. I think if Cuomo loses, we may finally see a turning point in the battle to end the status quo with the Democratic establishment. Yeah, I think we're seeing a lot of turning points. The parade when nobody showed up, the 5 to 10 million people with the No Kings protest. And I think that would be a sign too. Andrew Cuomo is a criminal piece of shit. I don't care what anybody says. I don't know a lot about his opponent, but he can't be worse than Andrew Cuomo at this point. So I'm hoping that Andrew Cuomo gets his pink slip and says, stop trying, motherfucker. We don't need you around here anymore. Andrew, I don't live in New York, and I don't live in New York City, so I don't know what kind of mayor you need, but you've had some doozies over the past. This Eric fucking clown that you currently have, you got Rudy Giuliani, and now you want to think about putting in Andrew Cuomo? I don't think that's a good move. We got a guy who's admitted to being corrupt. You're going to vote for that? I just don't think that's a good idea. And I think we are starting to see the tide turning a little bit throughout the country. We are seeing in smaller elections, we are seeing Democrats winning smaller elections when there was no expectation that they would win. I think people are to the point where they've had enough. They're scared of what the future is and they want something calmer. And the Republicans cannot provide that. All right. This is a Trump war, not an American war. I'm not going to say some of that because my wife doesn't like me using that word, crazy as it may seem, as much as I swear. The R word's off limits in my house. MAGA chimps who voted for this should be at the Army Marine or Marine Recruitment Center first thing Monday. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I heard somebody talking about what we have out there, and there's been a slowdown in recruitment. So they need more people. So you MAGA fucks, you big sloppy, stupid motherfuckers, show us how well you can fight. You keep telling us how tough you are. Here's the deal. You're gonna love it. They're gonna give you guns and weapons, but the only thing I will tell you, there's gonna be people shooting back at you, and I know you're kinda pussies, so you may not like that, but now is the time to show us how tough you are. And that's the next thing. If we do get in a full-on war with boots on the ground in Iran, watch Donald Trump want to somehow bring back the draft. Oh, the Republicans love that. Everybody should be drafted. You want to draft some people's young teenage kids? Yeah. Let me know how that works during the midterm elections. Mark says, "Ha ha ha! They could not burst a grape in a fruit fight." Yeah, that's what people always come up to me and they say, "Aren't you afraid of those guys coming after you when you say the things you say?" No, because I've met a lot of them. They're pussy ass bitches. I'm not worried about them. Spacer says, I don't live in New York, but I've seen this as a two-front war with the MAGA's establishment that holds us back from fighting against MAGA. It's time for a change. Yeah, I agree with you. And I have to wonder, there's going to be a dramatic change in the Republican Party once Donald Trump is gone. They're going to have to try to settle things down and try to appear at least more reasonable. They may not be more reasonable, but they're going to have to try to appear more reasonable. And they're gonna have to settle things down. But at the same time, the Democratic Party needs to make some dramatic changes too. They've been pretty passive since Donald Trump took over. I know there's a few that are yelling and screaming and doing what they should be, AOC, Jasmine Crockett, and Jamie Raskin, and some of them. But as a group, the Democrats have been pretty disappointing as far as they're handling this situation. Now, this particular move by Donald Trump should cause more people screaming. You wake up tomorrow or today, if you're listening to the podcast, and there's going to be a lot of talking about what's going on. And it's going to be interesting to see if Donald Trump ends up wanting to do a press conference because there's going to be some hard questions. And Donnie's not good with hard questions. He doesn't like it when people take him to task. And now that he's gone and started a war, there's going to be people taking him to task, and not just Democrats. It'll be Republicans too. Donald Trump kind of hit the breaking point at this stage. Donald Trump has destroyed a lot of things for the Republican Party, making it tougher for them to win in 2026. This is not going to help him. This is going to make it a lot tougher for him. There's no question about it. He's going to be in trouble. And what happens is the Republicans are already crying about it. They're saying that if the Democrats win the House and the Senate, Donald Trump will be pretty much impotent. He won't be able to do anything. And that is true. And that is what we should be striving for at this point. Put Donald Trump in a position where he can do no harm. All right, this one says, just an off-topic question. What's your opinion on Oliver North? I'm seeing so many posts about him lately. God damn it, it's been so long. Oliver North. Not a fan of Oliver North. But at least back in those days, we had somebody that had some realm of understanding of what was going on. Our problem is we have people that are evil right now, but they're absolutely incompetent as well. Not a fan of Oliver North. I can't, let's see here. I don't get too many Trump-fucks on Substack, but when I do see them, I'm just going to block you. Forgive me. Come Causa. We need to keep an eye on the big ugly Bill too. He likes to distract. Oh yeah, he does. The big beautiful bill is in trouble. It's another thing the Republicans will pay a heavy price for if they pass it. If they pass something, it won't be anything like we've seen up to this point. It's going to be stripped to the bare bones in order to try to pass it. And it's important for them to pass it. Whether they'll get it passed or not, I'm not sure. But time is running out on that. I think it's July 4th. They got to get something done, and they aren't even close at this point. JB, The Simpsons predicted a Trump 2025 impeachment and wars. They are one of two on that prediction, so let's hope for the impeachment, but that we get the couch humping VP. It's a lose-lose either way. Yeah, you're right. Here's the thing about J.D. Vance, though. People are terrified of J.D. Vance. If Donald Trump is no longer in the picture, there really is nobody to lead MAGA. They need somebody like Donald Trump, and J.D. Vance is nowhere near like Donald Trump. J.D. Vance doesn't have the charisma. He's not as well liked. Even Donald Trump's base don't like him. What will probably happen if J.D. Vance is made president with Donald Trump resigning or being impeached, if that happens, J.D. Vance is easily manipulated by a lot of people. Now, I'll grant you the people that manipulate him are evil motherfuckers, the tech bros, but they will have some common sense. My point is J.D. Vance can be controlled. We're already seeing it now. He's been controlled every step of the way since before the election, during the campaign. He can be controlled. He will be controlled. Once Donald Trump burns everything down, the Republicans can't continue doing that because J.D. Vance isn't strong enough to carry that and to get people to believe him, even though he's a fucking idiot. So things will have to change. J.D. Vance has some legal problems of his own. He may take over for Donald Trump, but he may be having some problems too. He himself could get impeached. Now, I just want to tell you, people are under the misconception that if Donald Trump leaves and J.D. Vance becomes president, then if something happens to J.D. Vance, then Mike Johnson becomes president. That's not true. That's not true. If J.D. Vance became president, he would appoint a vice president. If J.D. Vance gets impeached or is out of office somehow, that new VP would then become president. The only way Mike Johnson ever becomes president, and it's only temporary, is if something happens to the president and the vice president simultaneously, so that neither one of them can serve for whatever reason. Then temporarily, the Speaker of the House takes over, and that would be Mike Johnson. I think people are too worried about Mike Johnson becoming president. That's not likely. JV says, but Stephen Miller will run over Vance, evil mini-me. Well, fuck, Stephen Miller's running over Donald Trump at this point. He's pretty much running the show. Yeah, you're right. I mean, the point is we do have to win the midterms just to neutralize Donald Trump and his administration. Now, I will tell you this. If Donald Trump gets impeached and J.D. Vance takes over as president, I'm guessing he would likely fire Stephen Miller. He would not want any of the Donald Trump fan base working for him because he couldn't trust him. The party that is reveling and winning in this situation Trump caused is China. I'd have to agree. I saw only a while ago that China's favorability surpassed the U.S. since Trump took office. Biden was tougher on China and used the territories of our allies to contain them. China, as it was coming out of COVID, was on the downward spiral, but Trump just keeps handing them lifelines to catch up. China is also an opponent of democracy, which is concerning. Yeah, you're absolutely right. China is not our friend. It makes sense to work with them and trade and that sort of thing, but they're not our friends. And Donald Trump is making them look good, much like he's doing with Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom had been pretty much pulled out of the idea that he might be in the race for the presidency after those podcasts and such, but Donald Trump engages him. Gavin Newsom gets tough with him and attacks Donald Trump, and immediately he becomes a media darling again. Donald Trump is very adept at fucking himself, and he does it every time. And I'll be honest with you, the bombing of Iran is going to end up being a huge mistake for Donald Trump. It's going to cost the Republicans a lot of votes, especially those people that stand behind Donald Trump. Somebody was saying earlier that Kinzinger was standing up for him. Well, let me tell you about Kinzinger. He's not in office in any way. He has no power. He's a dumb fuck doing a podcast like me. So take what he says with a grain of salt at this point. Um, that's the thing about social media. There's a lot of people out there talking, a lot of people making speculations and talking about shit, and everybody's an expert. I will tell you, when I do these Substack lives or the podcast or TikToks or whatever, I take what I know at the moment and I make an estimation of what I think is going on. There will be times when I'm wrong and I'll come back and say I was wrong about that. And that's not a problem. It doesn't hurt my ego, and I'm wrong all the time, according to my wife. So why wouldn't I be wrong here? But too many people come out here, and you have to understand their motivation for doing the things they do on social media. They're looking to get views. They're looking to get followers. And from the moment I started doing stuff on social media, I said, I'm not worrying about views. I'm not worrying about followers. I'm just going to do what I do, let the chips fall where they may, and we'll see how it ends up. And so far, it's worked out pretty well for me. But everybody out there is looking for ways to get more views, more followers, and make more money. And if that's their goal, you got to take what they say with a grain of salt. If they can scare you a little bit and you're going to continue to watch them, that's beneficial to them. And that's what I've said before. We're in a world with a lot of crazy shit going on. There's always been a lot of crazy shit going on. There is no advantage to being fearful out here in anything, whether it be your life or whether it be in the world, in government. There is no value in being afraid. I mean, there's only so much that you can control. So worry about those things you can control. People always say, well, what can I do? You can do whatever you can do. Talk to a friend, talk to a neighbor, come on a TikTok or Substack Live and ask questions. We can only do so much. Just worry on those things you can do. And if everybody does something, we'll be okay. So Pete Kegbreath must be jumping for joy, that simpleton. Well, I don't know. You know, it's funny. There's been a lot of talk about Pete Hegseth lately. And after that parade, he got the blame for it. And the word is that he's been pretty much iced out by everybody. He's out on his own island because everybody blames him for the parade, including Donald Trump. And he hasn't been in the strongest position as of late. Now, if this bombing run helps his stock with Donald Trump, I don't know, probably does. Mark J. Mel says, times like these, you can see who truly cares about our country. Some disappoint, you never do. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. You know, part of the reason I feel comfortable in doing this the way I do it is because I'm 65. I'm retired. I'm not looking to make a ton of money. I also know that at 65 years old, my wife and I are pretty much set. Nothing's really going to change regardless who's president of the United States. I mean, it'll be stressful and it'll be tiring and all that shit. But what I'm concerned most about is my kids and my grandkids and all the young people coming up. I came into this world in 1960 and it was turmoil and tumultuous and it was a lot of problems. Now, I didn't know any different because I was a kid. But after I got out of it, I saw what it could be like. And I would hate to leave this world in a worse situation, a more terrifying situation for my kids and grandkids than when I showed up. And it was rough when I showed up. OLSH Survivor says, be courageous in the face of fear. Absolutely. I mean, what do you have to lose? Being afraid of something when you're walking into it does you no good. It may hurt you in the long run. Be brave and just keep pushing forward. And people will say to me, how can you say that? How can you do that? Well, here's what I know. 65 years old. I've gone through trials, tribulations, tragedies. I've gone through everything that everybody else has ever gone through. There are times when you think, I'll never make it tomorrow. There's no way I'm going to get through this. But guess what? Here the fuck I am. And here the fuck you are. You've been through all kinds of things too. But you're still here. So if you know you're going to make it through the other side, and it might be a little rough, you might get bruised up a little bit, but if you know you're going to make it through the other side, that should give you some comfort. That should give you some confidence and allow you to be more brave as you go forward. So it's like this bombing in Iran. Everybody's running around. Oh my God, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? We don't know what's going to happen, and there's not much we can do about it at this point. The best thing anybody could have done was back on November 5th and not voted for Donald Trump. But that's behind us. That's already done. There's nothing we can do to change that. So we got to deal with what's in front of us. And whatever happens is going to happen, and we'll push our way through it like we always have. So there's no reason to get scared and upset and cry and whine and tell me the sky is going to fall. It really frustrates me when I hear people say that, because that to me is just saying, I give up. Well, there should be no time when you ever give up when we're talking about the future of the country or the future of you or the future of your family. When is a good time to give up? There's never a good time to give up. So fuck that. Keep pushing forward. And if somebody steps in front of you, slap the taste out of their mouth and keep moving. That's all you can really do. Now I'm going to continue doing this for another 12, 15 minutes. I'm going to do about an hour here. I know it gets kind of long at sometimes. Last time I did a Substack live, some woman said, yeah, I really liked it. It was a little long. Yeah, I get that. I get that. And I understand that. Um, John Joseph Moran says, yes, deal with reality. Always do the best you can. That's it. It's as simple as that. Keep living each day. JV says, giving up is no choice. Yeah, exactly right. That's exactly right. And, we've got a lot of things working against us here. In our lifetimes, we've gone through troubled times with wars, and we've gone through troubled times with governments that weren't treating us right. This is especially tough because, as I've said before, people look at Donald Trump as a corrupt criminal, as evil. Some people even look at him as evil. But more importantly than that, is that he's incompetent too. So this dumb motherfucker can, over and above all the egregious shit he wants to do, could just as well screw things up. Spacer says, I really appreciate your wisdom. I'm a public health student in Ohio with an academic interest in foreign policy and history, especially in Asia. Fighting is more important than ever, one issue at a time with the knowledge we have and the skills we have. A Star Wars quote I remember is, there will be times where the struggle seems impossible, alone, unsure, but we keep fighting. Remember this, try. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, you don't really have an option. You just do it. And I will say on this podcast and on these lives, oftentimes have Will, and he would be a kindred spirit for you because he's a Star Wars and movie nerd too. And I say that with all due respect. I'm not one of those guys where I can quote many movies, but some of those lines in those movies really hit home and really make some sense. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. We don't know a lot about what's going on with this bombing. All we know for sure is that he in fact bombed Iran. I wasn't sure that I could believe him at first, but all the verifications are up. We also know for a fact that from U.S. submarines, they sent in 30 Tomahawk missiles. We also know for a fact that Donald Trump said that was an absolute success. But we also know for a fact that there's no way he could know that. It's just Donald Trump bloviating and acting like a buffoon as he does. We will find out more about that. As I've said, the Iranians have come out and said, nah, it's cool. We moved all the nuclear stuff. Now, Iran tends to lie. They're a little criminal. They're a little corrupt. They're dangerous. They're terroristic in many ways. So whether they move them or not, I don't know. But understand, the idea of bombing Iran and the targets they were choosing was put out 2-3 days ago. So if they could move all these things, they probably did. And if they did move all these things, well, then Donald Trump fails again. All right. So what I'm saying is when we wake up tomorrow morning, or if you're up already this morning, we are going to start the shit's gonna hit the fan. Politicians are going to be screaming, the Democrats, some Republicans. There's gonna be other people cheering in the streets because Donald Trump's so tough. It's really ironic that people would be cheering Donald Trump when he spent all of his campaign talking about being a peaceful president and that Joe Biden was going to put us in World War III, but Joe Biden didn't. But it looks like Donald Trump might be trying to do that to us now. Now, there will be Republicans out there that act like they've stood for this all the time, but we know that they're not very bright, and they lie. They lie a lot, and they will back up Donald Trump no matter what in every situation. No matter how wrong he is, they will back him up. To me, it's going to be really interesting to see how the Republican Party responds. People like Mike Johnson and some of those fucks, we know what they're going to do. They're going to stand behind Donald Trump no matter what. But there are a lot of other Republicans in the Senate and the House that don't like the idea of having to go home to their constituents and say, great, we're in a war. They don't want to do that. They're going to take a pounding for that. So it'll be interesting to see if they step up and speak out. The risk is that if the Iranians did relocate their assets for nuclear development, Trump may have just gave them a nudge to start developing a nuclear weapon. Well, yeah, that's exactly right, Spacer. Here's the deal. Sometimes you don't want to poke the bear. We've spent decades and decades of the Israelis saying, you really should bomb them. You really should bomb them. They told us we should bomb Iraq, and that didn't go well. Maybe we should have learned a lesson, but Donald Trump's not too good when it comes to fucking education. But to think that there's not going to be any retaliation, that Donald Trump can somehow threaten them and they won't do anything at all, well, that's just not going to happen. That's just not going to happen at all. There is going to be retaliation. And what that retaliation is, we don't know. Are they going to bomb military bases in the Middle East? I think there's a distinct possibility of that. They're bombing Israel already. Why not send some missiles over to some American bases? I mean, I hope they don't do that, but we're talking about Iran here, a terrorist country. They're going to do some fucked up shit. How do we know there aren't sleeper cells here in the United States and they try to do something in one of our bigger cities? They've done it before. They could potentially do it again. And again, what I was talking about with Mr. Global is that he was suggesting what they may do is go into Iraq and start burning the oil fields. You probably remember that if you're old enough during the Gulf War. Remember the video of all those oil wells burning? The flames were going for days and weeks. And if that happens, well, then we've got gas prices going through the fucking roof. As it is, they're probably going to be going higher tomorrow anyway. John Joseph Moran says temporary fixes are just that, temporary. And that's how Donald Trump is. Donald Trump doesn't strategize. He doesn't think ahead. He's a very emotional, very reactionary kind of guy. If somebody does something to him, then he has to do something back. And to be perfectly honest, this whole Iran bombing thing, in my estimation, it stems from the G7. Donald Trump went over to the G7 and he wanted to be the boss. He wanted everybody to defer to him like they've done in the past. But when he got there, it was different. Mark Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada, shut Donald Trump down. Donald Trump was going off on tangents. Carney shut down the press conference because it's his show in his country, and Donald Trump is not going to take over. The people sitting around the table in that G7 all have a different opinion of Donald Trump. When he came there the first time, in his first term, people said, well, he's kind of a dipshit, but he is the president of the United States. Maybe we better defer to him. Who knows what he might do? Well, they've learned a lot about Donald Trump at this point, and they aren't afraid of him anymore. In fact, they think he's a goof. They laugh at him behind his back. And Donald Trump could sense that. Donald Trump could sense that he wasn't getting the respect. He wasn't the star of the show. And he picked up his nuclear football and got the fuck out of Dodge that same day. Now, you have to understand how this clown thinks. He's on the plane. He feels like he's been disrespected, and he has. He has been disrespected. And so he says, I got to show how tough I am. And remember, while he was on the plane, he tweeted out or whatever he did, he said, people of Tehran better get the hell out of there. It's going to get ugly up in this bitch. He was already trying to show how tough he was. He was trying to throw it in the face of the G7. Oh, you treat me badly, you disrespect me, and I'm going to show you how tough I am. But as so often the case with Donald Trump, he starts something not thinking about how it's going to end, and it just keeps rolling. And the more and more people say, don't do it, the more he's going to do it. That's just how he does business. He's going to do it that way. And here we are. Donald Trump, the United States of America, bomb Iran. We're presumably in a war that nobody wants to be in, and we have no business being in at this point. So, I mean, I guess we had to expect something like this to happen. I've often said something bad's got to happen before the Republicans say enough. Is this as bad as it needs to get for them to step up and say, okay, we're tired of Donald Trump? I don't fucking honestly know, because I've thought there's many things that should have gotten them to step away from Donald Trump, and they haven't done it. They just fucking haven't done it. I don't know what's going on. And the Democrats are pretty much impotent in this situation because they don't have the majority in the House and the Senate. They can do little things here and there, but for the most part, they're hamstrung. And in fact, some of these people in the Democratic Party, I'm convinced that they want it to go down in flames just so Donald Trump takes the blame and the Republicans take the blame. They're willing to stand by and watch that happen and let people get hurt just to beat Donald Trump. And I don't like that either. I mean, if you're in Congress, you're there to work for and protect the people and protect the Constitution. And frankly, there's a lot of Democrats that just ain't fucking doing that. They're just not doing it. Car 361 says, I hope so, but I don't think they're there yet. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't know that they're there yet. And for all the craziness, I don't know how far it's got to be. I mean, what do you got to do? If Trump really has dementia, which I think he does, depending on what stage he's at, there may be a moment where someone, for example, does something simple like shakes his hand and he goes on a full meltdown and embarrasses himself. I think he's not too far off from that with his mannerisms being the way they are. You know, I tend to agree with you as I watch him too. I saw an interesting thing. I saw a video of him in a debate with Jeb Bush in 2016. He was going off on tangents. He's a dumb motherfucker, but he was much clearer, much faster, and he looked a ton better than he does now. Then I saw a video of him now, and goddamn, it's scary. This guy is slow and plodding, and not coherent. Can't finish a sentence. He can't do anything. He's certainly in trouble at this point. He's certainly got something going on. He's always been stupid. He's always been a little crazy, but now he's much slower. I saw him in his speech when he was talking about this bombing thing, and he had trouble with clarity. There is something wrong. There is definitely something wrong. And if it's obvious to us, you would think it would be obvious to the Republicans that talk to him on a regular basis. And apparently that's not far enough for them either, which surprises the hell out of me. I don't fucking get it. All right, I'm going to wrap things up for this Substack Live and the Rational Boomer podcast. I want to thank you all for joining me. It was just a wild shot. I said I'd come on Substack. We'll talk about it for a little bit. And when I do this, I really count on you folks showing up and asking questions and making comments. And you did. You always do. And I appreciate it immensely. Really do. I think nobody can do anything in this country on their own. We need more people interacting. And for me, with the podcast and with TikToks and with Substacks, the fact that you're there and want to participate, that's the most important thing about doing what we're doing here. So thank you for taking the time to listen. I hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.